As I stated, with these town halls, we're going to start to shift a little bit away from COVID and start to bring in some other community topics, because the world doesn't stop. Even though a lot of things have stopped, there's a lot of things that haven't stopped because of COVID. And one of them is what's happening in our water and sewer district. And there's an upcoming vote for a 1% tax to help out with the expansion and growth of that water and sewer district. So we've got two people here today to speak a little bit about what's happening there. We've got Ron Edwards, the longtime general manager of the Big Sky Water and Sewer District. And we also have Scott Bucher, who is, let's see here, senior project manager with the Water and Sewer District. So thank you guys for joining us today. Ron, maybe we'll start with you. Maybe if you can give us a little update of what's happening in your world. And obviously we've had a heck of a growth spurt the last couple of years, and how that's impacted the water and sewer district, and kind of bringing us to the point of where we're now at with this this vote for the 1% tax.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. And thanks for hosting these meetings. I think they're very helpful to the community. Before I get started, I'd like to thank Matt Kelly. He's been putting a lot of hours in for Gallatin County since this thing broke. I guess he's off the call now. And another person I get daily updates from is Pat Lonergan from the Gallatin County Emergency Management Services Office. County's been great about updating us as managers on the status of the COVID-19 in our county and statewide. It's been very helpful. So we've got a big project we've been working on. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, which hopefully works. And so we've been working on this for over a year. We hired an engineer to start working on a wastewater treatment plant upgrade, and that firm is AE2S. Scott Bucher has been my project engineer since the beginning, and he's on this call as well. We've been doing some public informational meetings as we lead up to this vote and election, which is going to happen May 5th. This is a substantial upgrade to our wastewater treatment plant. Got a few slides here. I always like to give people some context with what our district boundary is. This may be redundant for some of our viewers, but there's probably folks that haven't seen this. So we're a county water and sewer district, and we serve the Mountain Village up to the northern end of Cascade, up to Moonlight Basin. Moonlight is not in our district. They've got their own system. We're Lone Moose, Spanish Peaks, and then the Meadow Village and Aspen Groves approximate 4 by 7 miles. The yellow line in the picture is the county line. So we're complicated by the fact that we sit in 2 counties. This orange boundary is our resort tax district boundary. Our red boundary is us in the middle of that. So you can see from this that we're in the middle, but we're fairly small in terms of area. But I think in terms of the resort tax dollars that are generated through the entire resort tax district, they have figured that about 60% of the resort tax collections come from within our district. Certainly the mountain drives a lot of the tourism we get and the tourist dollars that come into our district. This is a aerial overview of our current treatment plant. That went online in 2004. It's a 0.65 MGD or 650,000 gallon a day treatment plant. You kind of build these things in 20-year increments. Our growth in Big Sky has driven our project planning for an upgrade sooner rather than later. So we started working on it about 18 years into our growth. And there was a study done by the Gallatin River Task Force. I think that ended in 2018. The conclusion of that was we want to maximize reuse of our treated water. That means snowmaking, groundwater disposals. The plant that we currently have is a type of plant that's not very conducive for that. So we're shifting to what's called an MBR treatment plant, a membrane bioreactor, which is an acronym for just a big mechanical plant. This is a overview which kind of shows our expansion area. We completed a land exchange deal with the Big Sky Community Organization last year, which has been very helpful in our project planning toward the new expansion. These are a couple renderings that we've recently gotten from our architects that are working on this. The area off to the left here is the area that's slated for the new expansion. Right of that is what's currently at our plant. The lower right here, kind of a takeoff. We haven't finalized what this thing will look like yet, but we're getting some good product out of our architects toward the final look of the plant. It's kind of a south-looking north view. We met with the resort tax 4 or 5 times toward the end of 2019, and we worked on a collaborative agreement with them, which basically has some key bullets in it listed here. Resort tax will pay for up to 60% of the project with the plant expansion, which equates to about $27 million. They'll pay 100% for a $12 million canyon project, and Scott will touch on that in a minute. We have in turn committed 500 single-family equivalents for workforce housing development, and that can be within our district boundary or outside of the district. And then we agreed that we would not come into the 3% pool for additional resort tax requests for the duration of this. This all hinges on this 1% vote, which will happen May 5th. It's being done as a mail ballot election, and the voting deadline is May 5. So here's some key dates. The ballots will go out April 17th. We're advising people that because it's May 5th deadline, you need to get it in the mail by April 28th. We at one time were going to be a drop-off site in our office there in Big Sky, but we closed our office to the public a few weeks ago, and we're going to continue to be closed for the near future. So that means that all the ballots would have to be mailed, or if you wanted to drop them off at the courthouse on May 5th, that would be an option as well. Duration of the tax would be through 2032, which is the term of the current resort tax. This is just a highlight of what goods and services are taxed. There's information on the resort tax website, which gets into the details of the types of things that are taxed in the district. We're going to fund the project through State Revolving Fund Loan Program, which is a state and federally funded infrastructure program. It'll be repaid through revenue bonds, which are on the user base, which goes to our sewer bill each month. We're going to ask if the 1% goes through, we get about $2 million annually from resort tax to pay that. If we are not successful getting the 1%, then we would be in the 3% queue requesting some assistance for the project as well. We've done a number of public meetings, informational meetings on our website. We record them and put them on a videos page. This dates back to 2017 when we started doing our first big informational meetings on the project. And our most recent meetings are up there. We did one on April 1st, and then there was a canyon meeting also on April 1st that are both on our website. We've got a page dedicated for the wastewater update project on our website as well. We've got a couple more meetings coming up on April 16th at 5:30. We'll be doing another online meeting focusing more on the plant upgrade itself, a little more detail on that. And then we've got one scheduled for April 30th at 1 p.m.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ron. That was a very well organized presentation. So if I understand it correctly, obviously the biggest risk is in the event that this didn't happen, that you guys would have to then seek funds primarily from the primary pool of the 3%. And that also one of the bigger impacts is the Canyon project, which I think would be a nice dovetail of Scott to give us a presentation. That's the Canyon project would be in jeopardy of happening.
Right. We recognize the timing of this is difficult at best, but we're moving ahead. We put in motion the election, months ago, and once you do that, you don't get to pull them back. So we're proceeding with the election, with the mail ballot election, and hopefully, we'll see what happens. But my board is committed to doing the upgrade either way at this point. So,
Scott, maybe if you could give us a quick update, just so that people that are not familiar with the Canyon project, you could just give us a high-level summary of what that entails.
Sure. Thanks. Wanted to show my screen here just to show you what the Canyon area district looks like. It's essentially goes south from the corral north of the 64-191 intersection about a quarter of a mile, so to capture that Bighorn Center area. So that's the north-south span. If you can see my screen right now, we did a survey to see how much wastewater is out there currently. We see that as about a third of the way built out to what it'll ultimately become. And what ultimately is going to slow it down or cap it would be water rights. So about 115,000 gallons per day on average of wastewater down there, and we see it potentially getting to about 305,000 gallons per day. So that's what we would be trying to sewer with this system. And, that's going to take several years for that to ultimately build out. But that was the scope of the study. The pounds per year you see on the screen there, that's nitrogen. That's really what's driving the project. That's what we're after, is trying to keep that nitrogen from reaching the groundwater and the Gallatin River. So we do that. We do models of these collection systems so we can cost them out. This screen's just showing you basically the spine of that model. It's right now, as it stands today, it's a pretty easily sewered region because it's all stretched out along 191, which makes it nice to go and capture it. The idea would be to bring that down by gravity to about the 64-191 intersection or thereabouts. Right there, we're showing a collection lift station out in front of Conoco that is entirely conceptual. We have talked to the owner about a potential lease if this were to happen. But you heard Ron talk about a $12 million resort tax funding. That would be to fund this lift station and the pipeline headed west up 64 to get this wastewater to Big Sky County Water and Sewer District's existing treatment plant that, as Ron explained, is going to go through a nice big expansion and upgrade in the coming 2 years. And we would take this wastewater and treat it to a much higher level than what's currently being achieved down in the canyon, which is essentially just septic systems and community septic systems. So we can really get it out of that nitrogen and vent pollution of groundwater and potentially pollution to the main stem of the Gallatin.
Scott, what type of lifespan would that system that you've outlined have for the canyon?
Oh, those pipelines, in an ideal world, they can last 100 years with ductile iron. The pump station, more of a 30 to 40 year life, but the structure, the concrete lasts. You're just in there switching out pumps and mechanical equipment. So longer than we need to worry about for sure, and just regular routine upkeep of infrastructure, just like Ron does up at the district right now, would need to occur down there at the district. And to get at that money, to get at that $12 million that the resort tax is putting in front of the voters, we need a canyon area district to form to manage that too. So resort tax has put I believe it's a 3-year sunset on that offer. And within that time period, folks living in the canyon area together and form become a district and would manage that infrastructure long term. Ron would take the lift station and the pipelines to his plant, but this canyon area you see in the right screen, that's going to be a canyon area district owned, managed, and operated facilities.
Excellent. Well, that's been a very helpful update. I know Joe's got one question from our virtual audience, so I'll let him address that. And then what I would encourage viewers to do, we're going to move on to the next speaker after this, but we'll keep these guys around. And if you do have other questions, this is a very important topic and obviously some big dollars, and but it's extremely important. So I would encourage you to continue to submit questions. And even if we don't address them at the end of today, we'll make sure that we can try to get it covered in one of our other news sources. But Joe, do you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Ron and Scott, thanks for sitting down with us. The vote on the increase to the resort tax is only voted on by residents of Gallatin County, but does it impact those who live in Madison County? This is a question from Kristen in our audience.
Yeah. Ron, you want to take it, or do you want me to take it? Ron,
there we go. I think so the electorate basically decides this are the registered voters that live in the resort tax district. So that big map I showed earlier, it's the registered voters within that. So that includes both Madison and Gallatin County registered voters, which is a little different than a straight county water and sewer district election. Includes property owners, but this isn't that. This is an election of a resort tax district voter base. So it's a little different than other elections we've done over the years for bonds we've issued in the past.
Gotcha. There's a quick follow-up to that. The question about Yellowstone Club and Moonlight members, will they be paying for Gallatin water and sewer through the resort tax?
Well, they pay into the resort tax. So the basis of the agreement we set up with the resort tax board was based on the collections within the water and sewer district, which were estimated to be 60%. So that kind of became the start point. So they'll be paying into resort tax. If the 1% goes through, they would be affected by that because it includes the whole district, not just our piece of that. So yes, they'd be paying into it, but presumably their portion doesn't go into the amount that's already being collected within our district boundary. And we were pretty conservative on the numbers as far as the growth. We've had double-digit growth in our resort tax district for the past decade, but we were using 3 to 5% growth projections for our analysis on the financing and the financial impact of a 1% resort tax vote.
Got it. All right, great. Thank you, Ron. Much appreciated.
Excellent. Well, appreciate that presentation once again. And I would encourage viewers, if you've got more questions, the Water Sewer District's very well organized, and that website that Ron showed where they have all their minutes and recorded meetings is a great resource for that. This has been going on for a number of years. So not only can you get a lot of questions answered there, but we'll make sure we do some additional coverage through Outlaw Media the next week or two, because we're going to be up on this vote really quickly. So it was important to give this some good time today because COVID has taken over the news cycle everywhere, but there's some very important things that are continuing to happen, and this vote is one of those. I'll turn it over to Joe and see if our audience has got a couple loose questions to go back through some of the other panelists, and then we'll bring a nice wrap to this session. What I'd like to do today is I just would like to go through each panelist and see if they've got a closing statement that they'd like to throw out. And then what I'd like to do is just to ask each panelist to tell us one thing that they're grateful for. So I think we're going to start at the top. Our representatives from the health department are gone, so we'll start with the Ron and Scott. So Ron, why don't we see is there anything else that you'd like to add from your presentation today, and what's something you're grateful for?
I don't know if Ron lost his video. He might have lost his audio.
Well, Scott, you're talking on behalf of them then.
Okay. I'll say that behind the scenes to bring that resort tax in front of the voters was a lot of creative thinking done by the Resort Tax Board and the Big Sky County Water and Sewer District back in November and December. And to see those two groups come together on their own accord and figure out a solution for Big Sky as a whole was very, very impressive. And I'm grateful to work for a client like that is so forward thinking and looking out for the environment and look at what's best for the people around them, not just within their boundaries, was a great experience for me.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And I will echo that. We've been covering it for years, and there's a lot of thought that went into this vote, and it's a very important vote. And I want to remind everyone, as Ron said, that those ballots definitely need to be in the mail by April 28th. And it's always important to vote, but especially on a local level, it's very important to vote now. Session number 3 is in the books. When I started this a few weeks ago with Joe and the Outlaw team, we stated that one of the reasons that we felt this was important is because you as our audience challenged us. We did some surveys, and the overwhelming response was more communication. And we've got a unique platform. We're not incorporated. There's not a government to help run this effort in Big Sky. Big Sky is run by local business leaders and volunteers who sit on boards of great charities. And it takes a village to make Big Sky happen. And so this format is going to be done like this every week right now, where we're going to bring together these community leaders to help share information, everything from important COVID topics like the county discussed today to this 3-year effort with the 1% vote for the needed expansion of the water and sewer district, to what it's like to run the local bank or restaurant or grocery store, and past issues of this, talking everything about the Big Sky relief effort and all the different mechanisms that are being put in place to help prop up Big Sky and move forward. But there is going to be life after COVID and the coronavirus. And so the format for Town Hall is going to go like this. We're going to continue to run it on a weekly basis while this pandemic has really got us, around the neck and is causing the havoc that it is. And then this is going to slowly transition to something where we're going to do it twice a month. And then after things calm down a bit, we're going to keep this platform going once a month, because it's a good way in an hour or 90 minutes to be able to deliver important messages to you. But once again, to reach out to the viewership, you are our audience. We are your news source in Big Sky. Let us know. If you've got ideas of other speakers, please let us know. If questions didn't get addressed today, please let us know. We can reach out to the panelists to make sure that we're covering these in a thoughtful way. Remember to vote. And also remember that great advice that Matt gave us is that as they transition out of this, we need to do it in a slow and deliberate manner, because we do not want to slip backwards and lose traction on all this. We've had to make a lot of sacrifices. We're on day 28 since Big Sky closed, and none of us want to go backwards. So let's make sure that we all are really responsible about how we do this. When we get the lights turned back on, we're going to have one heck of a party. And it's going to be a party with some great live music or some bucking bulls or something fun in combination there between. So we'll see you next week. Once again, there's different ways to get information. Explore Big Sky newspapers in print. The Town Hall is emailed out. You can subscribe to that on explorebigsky.com. We have an app, Explore Big Sky. You can also download that. Remember to support the local businesses, be a good neighbor, and the quarter where focus goes, energy flows. Good night, everybody.